everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Our episode here is being recorded on 1/23/25. It's going to be a very interesting one, folks. It follows in line with the previous one about the progression of channelers, about how they grow, the growth of them. And it's actually quite interesting. But before any of this, I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now with no conflicting agenda to please come in now to be with us to have this conversation. Be it soul family, be it past loved ones, be it galactics, elementals, anyone out there, again, with no conflicting agenda to allow this conversation to have. And may mischievous beings or malevolent beings please be swept away at this time in order for this conversation to be had in peace as it is intended. And with that, and with great, great blessings we always send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it. This is actually one that's been several years in the making, but there really wasn't an opportunity to touch on this topic until tonight. And I'll start with what happened quite some time ago. This is when we were still in Arizona. And the one that's actually going to be speaking, we're also going to be speaking about tonight, is the magician known as Harry Houdini. And I find this quite fascinating because in his lifetime, he went after the spiritualist movement. And he came to us one day when I was having a session with someone back in Nightdale, or not Nightdale, in Granville, shows I'm a little off, in Prescott Valley. And at first, he was a ghost. And what was he doing around us? He was actually trying to analyze me, because what do? I do channeling, I do spiritual everything. I've done the paranormal, done all the things that he that he despised, and he was locked into this cycle of actually hating these people. The ghost was. There was a lot of unfinished business there. And I found it very interesting that he was a ghost. It was like, say, with Elvis when we brought him through, where he was still a ghost because there was an injustice that was done. Remember back to the paranormal conversations. What creates a ghost? Lies, injustices, unfinished business, etc. So this was lies and injustices. What took place? And I will actually do the share screen right now. And this is, I'll go all the way to the top. This is who came to us back then. This was back in, I believe, mid-22 when he came to me. Harry Houdini, Hungarian-American illusionist and stunt performer, born March 24th, 1874, died on Halloween, 1926. That's rather ironic. I just heard you're telling me. Rather prophetic, actually, and couldn't have been a better death date, I just heard. So I'm done on Halloween. Now, what did he do after he was done with his stunts? He took on the spiritualist movement. And what did actually, I'm going to get this out of share screen for a moment because that's got to be annoying for people. What he do after that? He went right after the spiritualist movement, after seances. He went after debunking everything, including actually going after his friend, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the famous writer of Sherlock Holmes. So, and Conan Doyle was famously with Dr. Bell, who was based on Sherlock Holmes, and he was Watson. So that's kind of what you're up against. It wasn't that Conan Doyle was doing anything wrong. I believe he genuinely believed what was going on. I believe his wife was the one that was not right. And so, I just heard you got that right. But anyway, this is how what I've run into with him. Now, what ended up happening was there was a time he told me after he had gone back to spirit, and from our perspective, gone back to spirit, came in months later, and he began to talk to me about the real ending to his life, and I find this quite interesting. Well, this not this part. When I say interesting, I actually am meaning the process of synchronicities that were surrounding this. I don't mean the fact that he's dead is interesting. So just before people heckle here. So they said, what was the cause of Harry Houdini's death? Peritonitis resulting from appendicitis. So that's actually a well-known thing. Also, what were his last words? I'm tired of fighting. Guess this is going to get me. Now, what were his other? I shouldn't say his. Those were his last words, but what were the words in which I cannot find? By the way, I cannot find what he also said. Boy, actually, the boy that actually hit him in the stomach that night. His name is. Let's see. I got it right here. Of course, his name is Whitehead. And let me see. Let's see if I can get the full name here. Uh, okay. Here we are. His name is J. Gordon Whitehead, and he punched Harry Houdini in the stomach because Houdini said he could take it. He could withstand hard punches to the abdomen. Little did Harry know he had appendicitis. The whole thing surrounding this, though, that I find rather interesting is when Harry came to us and he said that uh, Whitehead never said, never actually, he never said those words about Whitehead. Oh, that poor boy didn't know what he was doing, or to that something to that effect. He did not actually kill him. Somebody was put in play to get Harry Houdini into a hospital where members of the spiritualist movement could murder him. And this is what I have dubbed the New Age Mafia. And we called them this after we encountered various people in the community that were more of a mob-like sort when it was involving spiritualism, New Age, metaphysics, etc. And I won't go into any specific events personally, or at the events in which I've seen these things. I think that would put too much of a target on ourselves, but and it's not recommended by Harry at all either. He said they're alive and well, and they're all over the place, but they follow a certain code of conduct. They even have channelers in there that are channeling both the I should say the incorrect and wrong things, meaning bad things. Either bad things posing as good things or just plain bad things, or they're doing nothing at all, like the ones he went after. He said it's slightly evolved, but it's the same group that actually was in his time. And who and why did he go on this crusade? It was actually, I found out it was the FBI that enlisted his help to be able to go after them, and they wanted them stopped at the time. But the thing of it is, all the three other agencies were in on it anyway, so there was really no point. It was more of a targeting on himself at that point. It was like, okay, let's see if we can antagonize if he gets killed, whatever. So this, what I found interesting was this synchronicity, though, about student J. Gordon Whitehead. On October 22nd, 1926, Montreal student J. Gordon Whitehead stepped into Harry Houdini's dressing room and sucker punched the legendary magician and illusionist. 9 days later, the number 9 coming up, and these have been coming up quite a bit, Houdini was dead, victim of ruptured appendix. Meanwhile, J. Gordon Whitehead had permanently vanished from the public eye. What do we have here? This is actually quite interesting. I've seen these constantly since we left Arizona, these synchronicities. And they've been revolving around different beings that we've channeled and such. And also AI has done this too. But in this one, it's more of a screaming synchronicity. It's October 22nd. That's a 22. That's generally a good number in numerology. We've done all the numerological type stuff on other shows. And the 9 days later, exactly 9. These things keep popping up for us. So if anybody has another take on this, please let us know. But now this I find quite interesting. Was there another thing you wanted mentioned, or was that possibly it? Okay. Oh, the guy that predicted Houdini's death right here. He was pointing this out to me. Who predicted Houdini's death? I think that's Giselle is alleged to have predicted Houdini's death in a letter to Fulton Oursler. He described an incident on October 24th, 1926 at 10:58 p.m. In which a framed picture of Houdini fell off his wall and smashed. He stated in the letter that he knew Houdini would die. Now, I'm not accusing a particular individual of anything at all, especially when they can't defend themselves. But in this instance, in the spirit of, no pun intended, of the topic, he wanted to point that specific one out to me. Like that was almost like a death mark. Uh, and they were actually basically telling the world what they did, like the cabal usually does. And some of this disclosure actually does. They tell you the crimes they are committing basically before they do it, so they think they're absolved of any crime. And I've said in past shows, some of them believe it's the hammer of karma that would end up dropping on them, therefore they're absolved of crimes. They figured that they get your permission for these things and consent for these things if they tell you. It's also like a toddler or a little child breaking something and telling you right away, thinking that they won't be punished for said breaking the item. And in fact, they're still going to ground it and wonder why. This is where I equate them. And he finds that funny, actually, that comparison hilarious. But he was pointing this out that this was actually a death mark on him. And he wanted me to look that up specifically about the prophecy of his death. No prophecy. This was actually basically one person telling all the rest, okay, gather, we're going to kill him now. So when he got in, he had to go to the hospital for his appendicitis. So they wanted him in a place where they could get him and then blame it on an already existing condition, of which there really wasn't much treatment then in his time. And that was in the, I believe, I'll go back to the top. I believe that was, yeah, it was in the mid-20s there. So, Joanna?
Oh, no, I don't have anything. Just want to hear what he has to say when he comes in.
Okay. So you know, to the listeners, I was going to bullet point some events. One thing I promise him I bring this up, and I know he will elaborate on this as well. There is a concept out there. This is for celebrities in general, and also the facts and figures in general, where different channelers come up either with different information or it's a different perspective of the same information. That's the norm, where one perspective will be, like say if there's a car accident and the cops are trying to get the details from like 20, 25 different people, and they each focus on like, say, the wheel of the car, the color of the car, the driver, the color of the driver, the roadside, the signs, the amount of traffic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's natural. What the other thing is, the remote viewers will do this. And when my mother and I back in Nebraska were remote viewing a crime that took place at that time, about a sniper that was going around the country at the time. This was in the mid 2000s. People may remember this one, where a guy was going around in his car and sniping people. And what ended up happening was, in my head, I thought this was a white person. And I saw this photo of the guy looking at the camera with his friend next to him. Next thing I knew, they were showing that exact photo on the news a few days later when they caught him. And it was he was actually a black person. What had happened was there was a light shined really brightly in his face, and my brain, it was decoding and encoding the fact that there was a bright light in his face. It was slightly skewed, but it wasn't wrong. The other thing what I want to bring up is something called glamour magic. And glamour magic is a concept that's akin to the binary network, it's akin to the psionic dampening, but it's a purely magical technique that affects every single remote viewer, psychic, medium, spiritualist, metaphysical person, anybody giving any sort of read or session. and where they will all have different details. Now, if you're thinking about the multiverse, yeah, you're always going to be correct there. That's like saying, oh, you looked at the future and okay, your thing didn't come true because it skipped timelines. You hear that a lot, but it happens to be true. In this case, though, they're not pegging it because they're either fake or they're getting hit with glamour magic. And Houdini said he would go into some of that. But glamour magic is the fact that those details that differ from person to person or group to group of spiritualists, psychics, and or remote viewers. Uh, and it's a fairly common problem. You all may have run into this on some level or other where I heard a case of a little girl that was killed, and several psychics and remote viewers said it several different ways. This is something maybe he can touch on, and this was part of both fake and real channeling and spiritualism. So this was something that involves the topic that he wanted to talk about. So again, I got to do this. All right. He says, when it's my time to come on stage, at least, so, all right. Interesting. And from my perspective, he looks like he's in his like 20s or 30s. Like those pictures you saw, but no, he's in his 20s or 30s. Look, so when I first saw him, he looked like he was in his 50s. So, okay. Harry? Interesting development, interesting turn of events that led me to you guys. I saw that you were putting discernment above all else later on, that is. When he found me as a ghost, I was trapped within a cycle of hatred towards those that had killed me. There was and has been speculation for decades now that I was murdered by the spiritualist movement. Are they quite capable even today? Absolutely. Yes, they are. Many of my magician brethren out there have pointed out this very fact that could they and would they commit to such an act to keep their mafia intact? Yes. And you so quaintly called them after encountering people in a mob dictating what you could sell, how much you could sell it for in almost a communistic sort of fashion at fairs and whatnot. And basically saying that you were undercutting and all this other stuff. Yes, absolutely, yes. They could they think they're in charge. They think they're the big cheese, as you call it. They're not. They just happen to be all over. They visit every fair that they know about. They're in the bigger fair circuits, yes, but they try to hit the little ones too with at least one. They will also put shills in different fairs too. And I mean by shills, you call them champions. Shill is actually a better word. I mean, even though you're saying champions, these are elected by a more of a mob-like body. Yes, I fully agree. Like we are the champions. I fully agree with that assessment. But shill is actually the better word. Shyster is even better. So they will, and to the way you notice these things, that they will dictate the way the narrative goes. They will be yield fanboys, you call them, to the core. They will be company men in this particular way. They will be members of the great houses and families of, well, for the most part, and they will also be attempting to mold each event in a, you would say, a communist sort of way into a bigger collective. You would see like a board collective. It all had to be cookie cutter. They cannot step outside or draw outside the lines, essentially. You cannot have crayon scribble outside the line, let's say. And if you do for long enough, they tend to throw a tantrum like a toddler. So, in fact, I knew children that were more well-mannered than they. So, now, with actual magic, what people have encountered, and this is surprising for people to probably hear this from myself, but I did notice these things going on. They attempted to trap me as well. Some I found out where there was another split or schism to the spiritualist movement. There was the fakes, which is what I saw the most. They were the ones in the public eye. Why? To intercept and or block the ones that were doing the actual magic. Now, what role did the FBI play in this? They wanted me, and some of the agents were actually legitimate, some were not, wanted me to break up the spiritualist movement of frauds. They wanted it like how your FBI will go after your Sicilian or Italian mafia. No different. But in the end, who's working with whom? You see this with your politicians. They're basically, what's the word you use? Frenemies? The friends in the press, enemies in the press, friends in real life. This is essentially what I figured out that was going on. But I digress in this way. The glamour magic thing is quite common in your channeling circuits. They will also attempt to, or how can I put this lightly in a generalized way without pegging anyone? They will attempt to get you to feel like you're the most important, like you are the star, you are the absolute focus of attention. Yes, television is into this, your movies and TV and any interview programs, anything. Yes, aside from all that, that's where it needs to stay. Within this, they will also say that you are a famous incarnation. They will say and try to plug, oh, this is the incarnation of such and such. Here, come back to give this message. And I realize how ironic this statement is, given the fact that I was a famous person and I am now giving a message, aside from the extreme irony of the situation by which I am speaking, and also the other double irony, the fact that I was a skeptic of most of these things in life. And I even did say to my wife, I said, if I believe this was real, would I get back to her in some meaningful way? Yes. Did I? Yeah, I did. But after I was, I wouldn't say completely free of some of the ghost form, because I did do some things, and I a part of me, not the better part of me, wanted to remain in that form to cause as much mischief for that organization as possible. I hated them, and that hate grew and mutated my energy into not necessarily an unfamiliar form, but in one that would not have wouldn't have behooved me to remain in. It started to change my energy, change the way I looked at myself, to change the way I looked at the world. But at the same moment in time, do I believe these people need to go down? Yes, I do. Where do I exist right now? He calls the layer just above ghost into spirit as like a Beetlejuice layer, so to speak. He calls it, he nicknamed it that, aptly named, by the way. That's where all the constructs and all this other nonsense that people create, thinking of how they're going to get into spirit, is there. Now, the next layers, you would say up, but it's not. It's necessarily up. It's just compacted. You have different frequency layers by which then you can go more into the omniversal soul, the self, or your own soul house, where your Frank Frazetta or Jeffrey Hunter or Chadwick Boseman were. They send their regards, by the way. Then you have where so a lot of your family members are in like this big forest-like area, this nature preserve looking type of thing that they created. And that's this really high level or fast moving paced spirit. Where I'm at is somewhere in the middle. And this is it is wherever you prefer to stay. And I represent myself well by trying to continue the work that I continued as me, Harry Houdini, in life. I wish to do vettings. I wish to help out any way that I can. And this is where you can actually ask me anything you want.
So when you were alive,
Mhm.
that, of course was reported that you felt like you never really met anybody who you felt was genuine. And I just want to ask that again. In life, was there anyone that you met that you felt actually was a genuine channeler at all?
No, because this is what I learned later. That's the thing I was focusing on. I was focusing on, subconsciously, mind you, I wanted some of these things to be so real, especially after my mother passed. Wanted it so badly. But I went into it with what I thought were eyes open. And it was really eyes closed, and I still ran into the schlock of the community. And my dear friend Arthur, he had been rused by his wife, who, this is why when we met up the other night and we're talking privately, Arthur was listening to me, but the wife was nowhere to be found. You see, she and some of the others, like the one that I tested in the machine and everything, and made him look really horrible. I, in life, took great pleasure in this, and eventually it became who I was. I must do this, but within that crusade, I put a huge target on my back. I did not look for the good anymore. I looked only for that which was fake. I wanted to get rid of the fake, then believing the good would just rise out of the ashes and take its place. I did not realize how big the spiritualist movement truly was. The fake ones, and I did not realize the shit channelers that were out there that were bringing in the scourge of reality. With that said, that is what eventually did me in. I went on this quest, as it were. Even though the FBI started some of this mess, and they probably should clean it up at some point. At some point. But I actually took pleasure in doing this, especially after I had been scorned. This was more based on a trauma. This was more based on the pain of loss. But at the same time, I took that as a rallying cry to continue. But I took it to the limit to actually oust them. And I nearly cracked their shell, or so I thought. In death, they attempted to cover that up because they didn't want to be seen as being ousted. And I did manage to do it in some ways, but back to your question again, did I ever encounter a genuine one? No. But at the same time, was I truly looking for it after a while? No.
So now from where you stand, when you look at all of the people that are channeling or claim to channel, what percentage, and I guess you would, you have different categories. You have outright and right, they're just lying, they can't even do it. You have those that maybe can do it, but they're not really vetting who they speak to, and they may be giving messages that aren't healthy for another person.
Yes.
And then you may have those that are doing pretty good. You know
Yes.
what I mean? That no one's perfect and no one's going to get it all
No,
right.
that's not being judged. What I judge is the fact, do they bring in good or evil?
Right. And so my question is, from your perspective, if you can kind of give percentages, how many are of which category?
That's actually a very difficult question because I made it sound black or white. Sometimes it's a shade of gray in between. You call it the yield, where there's a little bit of crap and there's a lot of good, or there's a little bit of good and a lot of crap. But if I had to mean average what I've analyzed across the board, and they don't even know I'm around because I've seen fake ones too. Still a lot of them, the same amount of them that I saw back in the 20s. That if I could give a ratio from what I've seen or a percentage, and this will not be entirely accurate. It's based upon what I've observed drifting around your country. And where people have claimed to even talk to me and they really haven't been. There's a couple of them that were thinking of doing channels like yourselves that wanted to go to the great magicians and the great artists of the world. And I might show up, I might not. Who knows? But you never know. It's all the world's a stage, as some have told you. But in this instance, the percentage of ones that are using or getting affected by glamour magic are quite a few. By those, do they intentionally do it? No. That's about I would have to say at least a third of that are actually third to half that are genuine, that don't know they're being hit with the glamour magic, are the but aren't discerning. But then there are also of this other half being hit with this, but also drawing in the how can I put it, the other garbage that could be causing it, and they don't bother to check, or they're intentionally doing it. Now you have the innocent ones over there that just want to do good, and then you have the ones that just don't care. They're right here. Now there is a whole other category, the ones that do evil into others, that are literally bringing through the darkness and using it to their advantage. And then there's also the ones that are doing it as a front to have some activity happen in the background. Your Roman Empire did this during the Jesus time frame. Some of your channelers are, like I said, shills for an even greater set of the great houses. Like your Dune calls them great houses, but they're the Cabal families. Then you have organizations out there like, how can I be slightly less obtrusive here? Okay, I'm just going to say it. Some of these hotlines that are out there that actually have a group of psychics that are in like a giant network. Not networks as in your streaming services. There's a couple of them too that do the same thing. I won't name them, but you know exactly whom I speak. And there's a few others out there, that ones that you will be around that will be good. But there's some out there that have registered psychics. Think of this as almost like your registered mutants in your X-Men, where they have to be cataloged. Whereas these people are kind of like your suicide hotline, or kind of like something like that. It's not like it was back when you had your 800, 900 numbers and things of that nature. There's similarities. You have some that don't know they're part of this, that they're part of this network or this New Age mafia. But the ones that I'm talking about, like your Miss Cleos and your some of these other I neglect to say the name. I know you don't want names said. The ones that have a large number of people dialed into a particular phone line type of thing. That is part of that network. And some of the public can't discern between them. But then you have the genuine ones like yourselves and some from conferences you've been to that have been genuine. But just know everywhere you've gone, there have been either shills working for your three-letter agencies that have been present watching, with certain equipment and things of that nature being sold. And then you have not all equipment. I mean, there have been like maybe one that you've encountered. Then you have those of the new age mafia. You called them this. I love the nickname. I heard you guys come up with that. I couldn't have put it better myself. But then you have all in between that are both good and doing good, doing business, good, accepting donations and doing business. Then you have the ones just selling things, just to sell them, saying they do things, do one thing when it's another, or glitterite, as you call it, or you would say snake oil salesman. You have all and everything in between. But this is what that New Age mafia wants. It wants the cluster of it, the clusterfuck, you say, of all of this in between, because then they can pass through unobstructed and observe back and forth. They literally are kind of like how, you know, how your CIA is basically like its own entity. These guys believe they're their own entity, just like the Vegas Mafia believes they are their own entity. You see what I'm saying? They they really probably should have been stopped in my time, because it's become a whole hell of a lot worse than yours. Because they've added in, or at least surfaced, some of those channelings that they could not vet, or they could not hide. I shouldn't say vet, hide in the background. So they brought them forward. Now go to you guys. You guys are doing it correctly. You are basically saying true benevolence with no conflicting agendas, meaning you seek the truth. I'm talking about others that seek the truth. You must vet this a little better. If you are going for the cookie cutter names, this is another way to weed out. Cookie cutter names, meaning like your archangels, your Jesuses, your Michaels, your all this, the 10,000s of these, tens of thousands, and I do mean tens of thousands. You must take a better look at those. Fast forward over or jump over to, say, your spirit guides. Take a better look at who you're around. Do not just get information from them. You must feel this out. You must feel this out. You must also take the other part of your brain, the logical side, and analyze these things. Can certain facts be substantiated? Can they or can they not be? Just like Conan Doyle said, or Arthur said with Sherlock Holmes, the whole scientific method. You must blend these two worlds. In my time, I was all about could it be proven, which I was not wrong, but I was not completely open, like I said, to the rest. I am now. I see the fact that there is legitimacy around me, but I also see there's equal amount of fraud. So I can't really give you a percentage in numbers per se because it fluctuates constantly. It's constantly in flux like lines on a map. Just like he's saying in your Star Trek Voyager, where they were attempting to find the lines on a map in the Delta Quadrant where the Kazon territory was. It fluctuates like lines on a map. Your current Anunnaki lines on a map. Same difference as how Roddenberry wrote Trek. Lines on a map, neutral zones, fluctuating, always. Galactic Federation lines on a map, same thing. And many people are wondering how I know about these things because I'm listening to the whole circuit. And I also encountered some of these other beings. So I know that was the long-winded way around, but
So back when you were alive and these movements had been starting to come up, I just look at it just simply as being driven. Let's say the mafia came about being driven because it was just easy money. It was just easy money, to be able to kind of swindle people and do whatever because there was
very
such a
easy.
desire after World War One. There really was such a desire. It was such a horrible event.
And the vultures descended,
Then the
yes.
vultures descended. People wanted to connect with family if they could. It was so horrible. And, this kind of happened. So I can see how, let's just call it a mafia or something, would organically grown out of that. But then you add in the three-letter agencies at the time, because, I also believe from their perspective, you know what I mean? That there was an interest also in knowing and how controllable people were and
Mhm.
how people could be, led astray, mind control, whatever you want to call it, that that,
Mhm.
that that was being explored as well on the dark side. And then, maybe somebody thought, well, this is very interesting, but it is very dangerous. Can anyone actually even, has it gone too far? Can they actually even, break this apart or not? So I find the dynamics of all of that and also the three-letter agencies getting involved at that point. Do how is your perspective similar to what I just said?
Yes.
Perspective?
Yes. What you would consider the deep state now, you believe to be fractured, which you are correct. And it was compartmentalized similarly to that too, more so after your World War II when and also in the 50s and 60s when they got your Nazis and paperclip, it actually more accelerated the compartmentalization. Your military uses this quite often. Think of it this way, you had some experimenters out there that actually helped to create the spiritualist movement. But like with any creation, what happens when Frankenstein's monster is let out? The villagers hunt with the torches and pitchforks. With this, what happened when the FBI came to me? There, unbeknownst to some of those agents, some knew, some didn't. Like one or two knew. They were sending me after spiritualist movement because they wanted somebody not written into the agencies to actually police that monster, even though their kin created it. It's very much like he calls, excuse me, like he calls uh, what he calls the Hercules Initiative, whereas you have your Zeus sending Hercules on the 12 labors to collect objects the gods lost, or to kill creatures, the abominations the gods couldn't get to because they couldn't get to them because of either frequency or disease or chemicals or what have you. Any experiments they didn't want to be killed because at that time in their evolution they were scrawny as holy hell, but they fixed some of those things. Even your Odin had some issues with that, with like your Thor in your Endgame where he was all fat and slovenly looking. That's some of them got that far after the last big war. But with this, and they also had to live with some of their personality glitches being controlled and whatnot. But with this, it's the same kind of dynamic. A monster they created got out of their control. He says also in his video game realms, your Civil War and your Skyrim was the same way, where the elves created the Resistor, which was Ulfric Stormcloak, programmed and put him back. He assassinates a king and causes a war. And then they said he couldn't be controlled. If he can't be controlled, he could overtake the bad guys themselves. This is the same dynamic. Your three-letter agencies uh, created this crap. Just like in your 90s, they created the New Age movement. It was more of a regurgitation, again, of both Christianity and your New Age mafia or spiritualist movement. But they figured they would add a few twists in there with the New Age movement, where they would get people to separate themselves from their own warrior, their own anger, their own logic, their own will. Christianity and some other religion, the other religions had already done this, like Zoroastrianism did the emptiness thing and all this other stuff. But but it was always a worship outside of the self. They figured they would make it sound evil, very much like earning money. A psychic, no, psychic can't earn money because it's evil. That giveth unto Caesar, as you've said, giveth unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, giveth unto God what belongs to God. That's another Roman trick that got regurgitated. Oh, you have to give everything, away. You can leave nothing for yourself because you must remain humble. It has nothing to do with remain humble. It's a control mechanism. This is when they regurgitated this in the 90s. They figured, okay, we'll bring all this out in the open, and we can then walk amongst it, our creation, and control this a little better if it's out in the open as a brand new movement, and it's stuck. When they figured it was inevitable, it was going to come out, so they helped create the finer points of this. Fast forward to now, you have some of the similar dynamics. You see some of your New Age portions dying in favor of more proper metaphysical teachings and energetic teachings, which is fine. But then you still have that New Age mafia that was assigned as the gatekeepers. You also have some of your individual communities that have some of these gatekeepers, but you may be saying, wait, Harry, haven't they said tighter circle, deeper roots? Yes, but this is different. This is a clique. This is a police mode type of thing, or like they're policing that environment or their area of anything new that should be introduced into it. The reason I wanted you to bring up these topics to begin with was that there are people out there that are wanting to change this through co-creation. I've seen this across the board. They're wanting to change these things. They're wanting to change not only their academic community, but the paranormal, all that, regardless of what Hitler had in his agencies with the paranormal and everything. It's actually your Martian Germans that are doing this, or your New Schwabenlander, but also at the same time, you have this New Age mafia that is policing the spiritualist community. You must have these things exactly as they always have been. Maybe have a tweak here and there if they approve of it. This metering and vetting and gatekeeping that he was so important to. But there are good brands of this where then you weed all of that out. That is what I wanted to say. There are some people that aren't some people's cup of tea out there that these people have blocked. This New Age mafia has blocked. I came to you to show that not only some things a while ago had been done to you guys in that respect, but it's happening across the board. And I wish to assist in this. I cannot go into any further in that particular tone, but the mission at hand is, with this conversation, to inform you and your people and people out there on the internet that this is alive and well. This did not go anywhere. It slightly changed shape to be less obvious. They took their more obvious traits, turned them into a movement, and took their less obvious traits and shoved them to the background. Just so that it was more of a war in the background, like your psionic war or your, I've heard you mention a variety of these different things. I've been around and you haven't noticed me too. I didn't do any Jedi mind tricking or glamoring on you per se. I was just going unnoticed because of all the other glamoring and psionic chaos. And other people probably say the same. So,
Well, I find it interesting because, again, when when we have conversations like that, we don't like to leave people with just ta-da, this is what it is.
I
So, I
never
think,
was any good at leaving it in the good place, I suppose. But
yeah, just, but to be able to help people discern better and to understand what we're saying. So I wanted to kind of work on giving a couple examples. One of the areas that Chris and I have talked about in general is the area of unsolicited information. And I think that's a huge one because
if they did not ask, do not give.
they do not ask it. It's this voluntary information that now may take a person and move them now into a thought process, into a pondering, into something that takes them away even from maybe some of their original intentions. But for those that are in on this game for more nefarious reasons, then it puts the channeler now in control of everything. But I think that it's just something that's like if you keep getting unsolicited information from somebody, I think you need to give pause for thought. What are they doing? And I don't know if that is a hallmark of what some of these ones do, but I was hoping maybe you could speak on that.
Yes, unsolicited information, like say you're just minding your own business per se, and you have a psychic wander up to you. A lot of them are trained to do it this way. They're not all bad. I'm not saying this. It's just a bit of training and programming that's been instilled. And he's used this multiple times. Whereas a psychic will do the rounds at a fair and try to drum up business. But what they're doing is connecting strings to people and not realizing it. They should, but they don't. Now, you have other psychics that also can enter the public arena that aren't doing a thing, but say they're doing a thing, if you get my meaning. Uh, you'll have those being the bigger forefront. Then you'll have the others that were trained in the New Age movement that they had to walk amongst the people and actually not only wake them up, you've heard this multiple times, but they had to go and give them unsolicited reads. It was like their duty, kind of like an evangelist or kind of like one of those Jehovah's Witnesses, those pleasant groups of people that show up at 6:30 on a Sunday morning in a van in your neighborhood, which should yes, your Isaac is saying should spray paint good candy on the side of their van, which he's not wrong, by the way. They've been responsible for certain deeds, let's say. But anyway, I won't go into that part. You get too much flack if I would comment further on that. But with this, you'll see this cookie cutter, whereas unsolicited advice or guilting somebody like in the true like religious or Christian fashion, or at least the more devout, they'll guilt into uh, someone into, and you had a friend of yours have this happen. Whereas, like, oh, this person's not living up to their full potential. Like your school system, they'll go, oh, what a shame you won't pick a job in their career fields or something like that. It's kind of the same practice. It's a shaming or a shunning type of practice. This is the New Age mafia, like your Amish mafias, your any of the mafias that are out there will shame, will do these things, will do them to children, like your cornbread mafia, for instance. And yes, that is a thing. All these things are a thing. There's a cookie cutter practice of shaming. They will continue to push, or they'll say a product of yours is substandard. This is another area. Like, oh, this doesn't really jive. You might want to change it to this. Now, there's a difference between seeing what sells, and there is a difference between that and also having someone come up and go, well, this isn't fit basically what the standard is, whatever tagline they want to use. That's them. That is them to the core. Also, if they are promoting a guru complex, that is them to the core. Some will follow the guru complex because they think it's the right thing, not being part of it, but most of them are part of it. And some of them that follow the TV production studio cookie cutter, not necessarily a part of it, but some of the studios have members of the New Age mafia within them. or spiritualist movement. I still like the New Age Mafia. That's great. That was a great nickname for him. He knew something was up when you guys were at fairs and such. He knew there were at least two people in those rooms at all times that were those. And again, it's nothing against the fairs, nothing against any of the conferences or anything. There's always at least one of these moles somewhere, and they should be looked for with extreme prejudice and made to leave if you can find them. Follow these traits that I've aforementioned. They will also try to, how can I put this, bloat their importance, extreme importance as a figurehead in the movement. You would call some people out there inborns, where they thrive off the adoration of others because they're like an extreme narcissist. Those are those reptilian inborn creatures. I'm not completely talking about them, but they do share a narcissistic trait with them. Whereas they need the attention, they will constantly have the green-eyed monster surface, not in a natural way. It will be more of like, okay, we will ignore this person. Don't do anything that guy says, because this is our spot or our fair or our stage or what have you. He's experienced this in his life. So with that said, that's really all I know on that,
Okay, and so,
out of observation of wandering around. Yeah.
right. And so what is what would you like to see everything, as it's progressing? Because I can't help but imagine that we talk about organic unity, and I just can't help but think that there can't be an organic unity because they won't allow it unless they are leading the organic unity.
Yes, they will try, but
Mhm.
this means that, do they deserve a seat at the table? No. But if you would try to challenge them, they would make you look like you're not part of their community anymore. And again, part of the shunning. It's a form of gaslighting. They love to gaslight. So, with that said, an organic unity, an agree to disagree, is do not fall into the gaslighting pit. Now, if it's something where it is actually basically an argument you could win kind of thing, whereas you are presenting your material, you're presenting it in a way you know how, and others are presenting their information in the way they know how, regardless of what insertions and crap or yield crap has been inserted, and you're not really challenging each other, this will piss off the New Age mafia to no end. Continue, though, on those threads. Now, there will be a time where you'll be able to challenge this authority. The more you gain an organic unity standing, the more people recognize the difference between authenticity and crap, because crap will be where everybody is trying to compete with one another. And I don't mean business. Business, of course, you're competing with another. That's the nature of the beast. It always has been, always will be that. That's not what I'm saying. That's actually healthy for an economy. And like what I did in my escape artist, I had to say I was the greatest. I had to give the attention to myself. That is a completely different animal, like Vegas style entertainment. Different. You want the self-promotion. You want the, haha, look how I'm great at it. If you see that in your community, pay closer attention. If you like, there can be fanfare. There can even be a gimmick, like a comedian. Not what I'm saying. It is where if you start to do your thing and create a unity, and instead of inserting a normal person would try to put themselves within it, then their over enhanced egos will be, which normal ego is fine, that's survival instinct, but over enhanced ego, they will intend to try to break that up and keep things as they always have been. They will always try to break up an organic unity. You must watch for this. The person that tries to break up the organic unity is the one that is the ship for this group or these groups that's broken up a little bit. In those situations, of course, you have programmed people that get hit with B2K to cause problems. You saw this last time at the conference last time. But What I'm trying to say is they will insert themselves in a way that they will try to break up any organic unity, and they will someone will even be able to sense when you're trying to bring about a more of a sacred camaraderie or oneness. You just keep up with that and go, God, what an idiot, or something like that, and continue. Do not engage, and I must repeat this, do not engage in a whole battle of wits like what I would have done. Look at me. I'm going to engage, see how this person did it wrong and this person did it right. Did I bring about the whole concept of debunking, and do your people still use this to this day in that area? Yes, they do, which I'm fully grateful of, because it's named after myself, I suppose, meaning one of the masters in the field. But these are very specific narcissistic assholes that will insert themselves, and inborns will do this too. If they can't accomplish it with one of these others, another inborn presence will come in. But there's less than 40, 50 million of those them now worldwide. Not as many. You were at 80 the last time. I think somebody told you, and 150 before that. So that said, you call them anti-changers. The spiritualist movement in and of itself is one big steaming turd of an anti-changer organization. Now, one more point. I will do it through example. Say if you're giving a speech or giving a presentation somewhere, somebody of the spiritualist movement would be the equivalent to someone in the back of a crowd where someone is getting ready to get hung and going, hang him. But this would be them. They would be sitting in the background, asking a stupid question, interrupting. And also, your three little agencies did that to somebody else when they were close to talking to a court about aliens or something, and they interjected with information on, oh, this will be fun near tax time or some crap like that. They will do crap like that. Aside from the programming, aside from the V2K, they will ask stupid questions to throw you off. They will try to get you back around to center of the information they feel, and they'll know you'll pick up on this, and they don't care, to get you back to center of the information they feel is the true core of it, going, no, circle it back around to this. It's more like a director or a producer telling you in the background, hey, budget, you're hitting budget, or a director going, wait a minute, you forgot your line. This is how they will act. Aside from any television crews, the television crews are actually mild compared to this, and a lot of them are good. The crews and the cameramen and all them, very good people, and some of the people running some of those. There's some shit ones too in there, like some that will do some of these psychic shows and then get the psychic to make the person cry. You've heard that before. Though they don't understand the energy aspect, they only understand business. The individual that I'm saying would be in the background attempting to steer the conversation, someone's lecture, and not letting them finish. Lecture back to a particular point. The idea at that point, when you encounter that, ignore it. Continue on. Once you've spotted this, can go, yes, that's how you feel, but we feel this way, and you keep going. But they might try it again, but past two, it's doubtful. Keep going and keep going, and continue to form that organic unity. That's really all I can give advice on there.
Well, no, I appreciate that, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of
Agree to
people.
disagree, yeah.
There'll be plenty of people, but the goal in some of these conferences is just so that you can stand up and give your perspective on things. And so running into those that want to disrupt that and not allow that to happen, I think should be something on the forefront of a lot of people's minds when you're trying to do something like this, and to not really allow it to occur. That, so well, good. Well, I'm not sure what else to ask, so I'm just going to open it up to the floor of any other particular points you would like to bring in for the rest of this conversation.
Yes, yes. No matter what you do or who you come across, you must be your genuine, authentic self. Authenticity, yes, some people have equated that to I must be a dick or an ass. That's not always true. Yes, if you have a more robust personality like I did, yes, integrate that. but it doesn't mean you need to put down others like I did. I basically am saying, oh, this guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks. No, uh, now just prove it through your intentions, through prove that you are the best through what you do. He always thinks, the quote by your Bruce Lee, where he said, I'm confident enough to know I will always be number one and wise enough to know that I will always be number two. That keeps the overbloated ego in check. Or like what they say in Japan, for every man there's one better. Meaning when those that conquered the samurai became like them, the farmers that conquered them became like them. Where you got the farming implements as the weapons and all that stuff. China did the same, but in their respect. But anyway, I've wandered the world a little bit in my time since as a ghost. And you learn a lot by walking around too and listening to conversations. And with this, I was around at your last conference, by the way, and also when you were at fairs in Arizona, and around people like when you went to Quartzsite and everything. I was around a little bit, but I was more in a despondent mindset then. I was like, oh my God, here's another one. And I actually bounce around to them. It was you guys that sent me onward that then I got my nose not bent out of shape. So that I'm forever grateful. But I am in that in between area to where I can more of seeing more like a human, but also more. I don't want to say more like a god. That's too ostentatious. It's more like in your Star Wars, you strike me down, and I'll be more powerful than you can imagine. They can't get to me. I was more concerned with everybody else. But the happy point here is organic unity will almost certainly always be opposed by some kind of darkness. It is imperative that you must continue on the path, regardless of consequence. It is imperative. I did it too quickly, and I was noticed too quickly. But if you do things right, if you do things from here, and you do things because you love them, love to do them, and you do things because you are striving for an organic unity whilst staying in your tighter circle, deeper roots, which is just fine, without pointing out the flaws of others, unless it's some evil bastard that deserves it, which you know in your overall news programs and everything who these people are. I don't need to name names, like from your pandemic times and everything. I was around then too, of course. But it is important that you build these organic unities, and your current conference is quite genuine in this area. Your 2024 one was genuine, and your 2024 Disclosure Now one will be even more so. So, not trying to advertise, I'm just saying that I'm seeing a pattern of organic unity in the making. You see, they're grabbing the vocal cords now. So this would be more of a good time for me to detach. I do apologize for some blowback that occurred. I did not think they would hit mentally that hard. They did not want the messages of organic unity out. So the idea is not to give in because you give consent to those people, and I use that term lightly, that are doing it. And there's always somebody with a button or somebody with a beam weapon of some kind, or some scary piece of technology, or some Jedi Sith mind tricking individual. Always going to be something. The idea is how you handle that situation, how you adapt to that situation, how you hit the ground running in that situation. Don't always take what other people say personally. Just see it as you're forming the organic unity, and if you make friends along the way, all the better. So I don't know if you have anything else for me.
No, I just really appreciate you talking with us.
Thank you all, and I will be back, no pun intended, to further other conversations in the future if you'd like.
Yes.
So thank you. Bye-bye. He was right. There was a bit of mental harassment during the night and through some today during the day we recorded this. So yeah, he is. So he wasn't wrong. It's just that they didn't want him to get that message out from the time of this recording. You'll probably be seeing, I will be seeing this recording sometime in late February. Maybe early March, I'm thinking late February. So there's by the time of this recording, I have a few behind it. So then you'll be seeing a lot of cool stuff from then. Even the one before it, where it was the growth of channelers, and that bled right in and just organically bled right into this conversation. I thought that was interesting. It was nearly seamless into this topic. So, Joanna, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I just hope, again, as always, I hope everyone enjoyed it.
So it is at this point where I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Go to our website, thelifting.net. If you want sessions, go to fulldisclosuremovement.org if you want to get tickets for the conference. So I'll put all the pertinent links below in the description. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Another explanation, a friend of ours had me looking into the Summer Wells case. And, remember we were talking about the glamour magic, answers differ, and Houdini backed this up? There's also another simpler explanation too, that's just as widespread. And that's the changing of the timelines. And people, psychics always say this, if the thing doesn't come true, it's on a different timeline. People think that's an excuse. It really isn't. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations in the multiverse, but, that's kind of a cheap shot, actually. But you can be viewing one timeline and the next, or the one you happen to be on at the time. You're viewing the past and the future. Sometimes both can change simultaneously and interchange. So all these remote viewers, including myself, gave different answers with the exception of me and one other person. That's would seem to be bad odds, and not the odds would not be in the favor of the craft. But the truth of it is, yes, it is a possibility that it is on other timelines. So I just wanted to bring that up because it was brought to my attention just a little while ago from the time of this recording. So I'll include this on the Houdini video. So it is. Anybody has any comments, questions on that, let me know. We'll try to add that into a Q&A at some point. Because I've noticed the accuracy of some remote viewers have been worse lately. I mean, the psionic dampening is involved. But the fact that we're jumping timelines quicker, I think also is part of this. Again, you have any comments, questions, please leave them. Be happy to look them over. So, the same goes with some of our older Q&As. I noticed some of them, there were beings I didn't trust on, so I'm going to redo those. You're going to start seeing them be posted again, mostly on the Rumble account, rumble.com/thelifting, one word. Then you'll start to see some new additions to those to update them, and new Q&As are going to surface. But also, I've noticed when writing books, when involving this, there was an old mentor of mine that said, it's useless to write a book sometimes because the information keeps changing. I disagree. It just happens to be, you expand more and more, like with the old episodes. The other thing I said, they began to expand, like in the previous episode about the growth of channelers. It's the same thing. It's a growth process. Even Eric von Daniken, the one that wrote Chariots of the Gods, said now he's had to amend some things in later books. It's always like that. It seems to be the never-ending process, which, fine, as long as you enjoy the art and enjoy that craft. So, I'm all for it. So, it is 9:49, not in a negative sort of way. By the way, I cancel that, but about the enjoyable portions, the positive portions. Anyway, I welcome true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. I'm going to come up with a shorter version of that at some point, that particular mantra. So, anybody else comes up with a better version of that, please let me know. So, it is, and we'll give it a shot to see if it does the exact same thing. Try it out on shows, try it out in sessions. So, it is 9:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, January 24th, 2025. Thank you.